Coronation Street has delivered its darkest twist yet, and it is tearing the Grimshaw family apart. Theo Silverton is not just hiding a death, he is actively twisting the knife into Todd Grimshaw to cover his tracks. We all watched in horror as Billy Mayhew took his final breath during that devastating crossover event, but the real tragedy is what is happening now behind closed doors. Theo is rewriting history and making sure Todd carries the weight of a crime he did not commit. Before we dive deep into this heartbreaking storyline, please take a moment to press that like button and subscribe to our channel for all the latest spoilers and theories. The aftermath of the crash has settled over Weatherfield like a heavy fog, and the silence left in Billy Mayhew's absence is deafening. We need to talk about the psychological warfare currently playing out at number 11 because it is some of the most harrowing drama the show has produced in years. The writers have taken a domestic abuse storyline and elevated it into a psychological thriller where the villain is being hailed as a hero. It is infuriating to watch, but impossible to look away. Think back to the minibus. The show did an incredible job contrasting the warmth of the reception with the cold brutality of the accident. We saw them all happy. Debbie Webster's reception was filled with promises and toasts, and that specific kind of family intimacy that makes you feel safe. They were a cramped lump of warmth traveling through the dark. You had Todd sitting beside Billy and Summer chattering away in the back. It felt normal. It felt like they had a future. That is what makes the crash so much harder to accept. When the world turned upside down in that ditch time seemed to stop. The visuals were terrifying with headlights smashing glass like sudden rain. But the real horror wasn't the crash itself. It was the choice made in the seconds following it. In the version of events that Todd replays in his nightmares, Billy were trapped and Theo just watched. It takes a specific kind of evil to look at a dying man and decide that his death is convenient for you. Theo saw an opportunity to bury his secrets along with Billy, and he took it. The most chilling part of this week's episodes has been watching Theo construct his narrative. To the rest of Weatherfield, he is the grieving partner who performed a miracle. George Shuttleworth and the neighbours believe Theo crawled through the wreckage and dragged people to safety. They see a hero wiping blood from his brow with a trembling hand. They do not see what Todd saw. They do not know that the delay cost Billy his life. This dynamic creates an unbearable tension. Todd knows the truth, but trauma has fractured his ability to speak it. When they were at the hospital, we saw Todd's voice go thin and high every time he tried to talk. He was signing forms and breathing in sterile air while trying to process the fact that Billy was gone. And there was Theo standing in the doorway. His entry into the room was quiet and poisonous. He moves with the economy of a man who measures his actions to see what he can get away with. The scene where Theo placed his hand on Todd's shoulder was a masterclass in manipulation. To a nurse or a doctor passing by, it looked like a supportive partner offering comfort. But we know better. That touch has been a leash across too many seasons. When Theo told Todd he did everything he could, it was not absolution, it was a command. He was rewriting Todd's memory in real time. He was forcing Todd to doubt his own eyes. Todd is living inside a shape of guilt that Theo designed for him. It is sharp and private and incredibly lonely. The writers are showing us how abusers isolate their victims, not just physically, but mentally. By playing the role of the grieving hero, Theo has made it impossible for Todd to contradict him. Who would believe the traumatized ex against the man who supposedly saved everyone? It is a trap that is tightening every single day. George Shuttleworth's involvement adds another layer of tragedy to this. George is a good man who is bruised by sorrow and hungry for explanations that make sense. He has placed Theo on a pedestal because he needs a hero to believe in. He keeps telling people that Theo got them out. He lets Theo wear that praise like a cloak. Every time George praises Theo, it drives the wedge deeper into Todd. It validates the lie. It makes the truth seem like madness. The funeral scenes were heartbreaking, not just because we were saying goodbye to Billy, but because of the injustice on display. The town gathered like birds at a funeral feed. You had faces from decades of story standing there in black. The cameras panned over old friends and newcomers, and everyone was united in grief. But then you had Theo standing up at the Rovers with a glass in his hand. He arranged that speech with surgical precision. It was the performance of a man who has practiced saying two things at once for his entire life. He raised a glass to Billy and spoke about a man who lost his life helping others. The community cried because that is what communities do. They took the grief and made it communal. But Todd had to slip away. He could not bear the sound of manufactured sorrow. It is physically painful for him to watch the man who let Billy die receive applause for loving him. We have to give credit to the acting because Theo's erratic behaviour in the aftermath is subtle but terrifying. He insisted on coordinating the memorials. He wanted to be the one to write the tributes. He needed to control the narrative completely. The attention made him swell up with confidence. It was a public performance of grief, rehearsed to perfection. But when the doors are closed and the neighbours are gone, we see the cracks. Theo is not a monster without a conscience, which almost makes him worse. He is a man consumed by the need to protect his own image. In private, he is a tangled mess of remorse and desperately practice self-possession. There are nights where he stares at the bathroom mirror and does not recognise himself. He feels the weight of what he did like a stone in his pocket. But instead of confessing, he doubles down. He rationalizes it. He tells himself that the secret must be kept to protect the status quo. This is where the story becomes a study in guilt. Guilt is not always a force for confession. Often it twists inward and becomes a motive to cover up the crime. Theo has convinced himself that he is a martyr rather than a death. He has become the man who can cry on cue and make the speech that moves the room. The more praise he receives, the harder the lie becomes. It is easier to live inside the lie when everyone else helps you decorate it. Todd's struggle is quieter but deeper. He is dealing with the loss of Billy and the loss of his own agency. The flat smells like Billy's clothes and lavender fabric softener. Todd wakes up in the night imagining Billy's laugh cutting through the darkness. He wants retribution. He wants to stand in a room and tell the truth and have the people who loved Billy respond with fury. But he is paralyzed by the fear that he might be wrong. This is the most insidious part of Theo's gaslighting. Memory is not a camera. It is a prism that refracts according to fear. Todd has to live with the possibility of error. Was it really a malicious choice, or was it just chaos? Theo knows this doubt exists and he feeds it. He acts the part of the perfect husband in public and the gentle caretaker in private. He kisses Todd's forehead and arranges the calendars and ensures there are flowers on the windowsill. These acts of kindness are weaponized. They are designed to make Todd feel ungrateful for suspecting him. Summer is the wild card here. She is practical and young and ferocious in her devotion. She is holding the mess of emotions together like a fragile bird. She senses the fissures that Todd is not voicing. She sits with him and holds his hand and refuses to let the silence become a cavern. When she spoke about moving away just for a while, it felt like a lifeline. Todd nodded and let the idea sit like a pebble in his palm. He loves the idea of leaving, but he fears it too. Leaving would mean admitting that the life he has with Theo is a lie. It would mean breaking the silence. The decision to leave or stay has turned into a moral argument inside himself. It is the impulse to preserve his own life versus the debt he feels for the dead man who loved him. And while he wrestles with this, Theo continues to win the public relations war. There was a moment at the Rovers where Theo led a toast that went viral on social media. The clip showed the right smile and the right tear. It was shared by people who talked about what makes a man a hero. When Todd saw that clip, it must have felt like a betrayal. It was a man performing grief, while the truth hid like an animal under the floorboards. The show is doing a fantastic job of exploring the different layers of storytelling. There is the story the accused tells himself to sleep at night. There is the story the town tells each other to make sense of the tragedy. And then there is the brutal, private story that sits inside people like Todd. The work of grief is a long arithmetic of small sufferings. It is the paperwork and the flowers and the cards. But for Todd, it is also the knowledge that justice is being denied. We are seeing Todd start to make small moves, though. It is not a grand confrontation yet. It is not heroic in the cinematic sense. It is human. He has found a way to be honest without the annihilation he fears. He has started planning for himself. A small secret suitcase, phone numbers tucked into old cards, an appointment with a solicitor just to see what leaving would actually mean. This is a significant development. Todd is realizing that he cannot save Theo and he cannot save Billy, but he might be able to save himself. When he finally spoke to a friend months later in the timeline, it was quiet. He did not say the words that would topple Theo. He only said that he felt unsafe in ways that were not physical. He said the memory of that night had lodged like a shard. It was a soft confession, but naming it gave him a beginning. Theo is circling the possibility of confession like a moth around a lamp, but he will never land. He creates scenarios in his head where he admits everything, but the fantasy never leaves the bathroom mirror. He is too addicted to the adulation. He is too afraid of the collapse. He will continue to be the heavy inevitability in Todd's life until Todd physically removes himself from the equation. The writers have left us in a place that feels very real. Billy's death did not resolve anything in a tidy way. The town has filed away its sadness under flyers and approaching seasons. People move through the days with acceptance. The Rovers has a quiet corner where friends go to remember him. Sometimes Todd sits there with a notebook, writing down the little kindnesses he wants to hold on to. The scene at the end of the week, where Todd stood by Billy's grave, was a masterpiece of writing and acting. It was a place that had nothing to do with evidence and everything to do with memory. Todd told the dead what he could not say to the living. He told Billy that he loved him. He told him that he had failed. He admitted that he thinks about the night in all its shards. This storyline challenges the audience because we want the villain to be caught immediately. We want the police to swoop in and the handcuffs to click. But Coronation Street is telling a different kind of story here. They are telling a story about coercive control and the complexity of trauma. Theo isn't going to be caught because of a forensic mistake. He is going to be caught because eventually the weight of the lie will crush the household, or because Todd will finally find the strength to walk away and take the truth with him. It is frustrating and painful, but it is also compelling television. It forces us to look at how easily the truth can be buried under a nice suit and a charming smile. It makes us question how well we know the people we call heroes. And it makes us root for Todd Grimshaw in a way we never have before. We want him to pick up that secret suitcase. We want him to use those phone numbers. We want him to survive this. What do you think will be the breaking point for Theo? Will Summer figure out the truth before Todd leaves? Or will the guilt finally cause Theo to slip up in public? Let me know your theories in the comments below because this story is far from over.